I would like to welcome you to this wonderful and rather unusual conference.
In an open and impartial atmosphere.
An hour starting now.
The Temple Mount in Jerusalem is the soul, heart and spirit of the Jewish people, as we heard in the previous lecture, and it occupies about 1/6 of the total area of the old city of Jerusalem. It is the archaeological site number 1 in the Holy Land. Very interestingly, the holiest site and the most important archaeological site was never touched by the spade of any archaeologist. It forms a kind of a black hole on the map of the archaeological activities in Jerusalem. Not a single sherd was published from the Temple Mount in the last 150 years. All that changed in the 90s. As a result of political developments. There was a very large illicit dig carried out by the Islamic Waqf, which removed from the Temple Mount's southeastern corner approximately 400 truckloads, which were saturated with the cities and the Temple Mount's history. The last 15 years, we spent, Tzachi Dvira and myself, co-directing a project with the participation of volunteers from all around the world and from all facets of society in Israel, sifting through the soil which was removed from the Temple Mount. We had altogether approximately 250,000 participants in the Sifting Project, which makes this project into the most exposed archaeological project in the world. In addition, we have had in the excavation or the sifting of material coming from that illicit excavation upon the Temple Mount, we had altogether more than 500,000 finds. I could stand here for several weeks and tell you about all kinds of details about the different periods discovered. Actually, we have all periods represented, from hunters-gatherers in the Epipaleolithic period up till modern times. The purpose of this lecture today is to show you some highlights starting in the late Bronze Age and ending in Second Temple period. The work which we carry out was sometimes criticized by some, saying that the finds do not have any context. Of course they do not have any context. I would prefer them to have a context, but that is impossible. The closest that we can come to a controlled excavation upon the Temple Mount is the sifting. More than that, I would say that all those who criticize us for dealing with objects without a proper context are those who publish later on an archaeological survey with 10 potsherds without any context, and they draw far-reaching conclusions from those 10 sherds. Altogether, we have close to 500,000 finds, and the quantitative value of the finds is of enormous significance. Statistically, the processing of the material just started, and it will have eventually a very important contribution to the nature and to the significance of human activity upon the Temple Mount in different periods. Another criticism that we heard is that one should not be sure whether this material comes from the Temple Mount. First, we have external evidence of people who followed the trucks that removed the material from the Temple Mount. Second, we have internal proof for the origin of the finds. We have among the finds objects which could come only from the Temple Mount. For example, we have the seal of the Islamic Waqf of the Temple Mount, and in addition we have hundreds and thousands of fragments which originate from the decorations of the Dome of the Rock, either the gilded mosaics that once covered the building on the outside, or glazed tiles which replaced them. So we are sure about the origin of the material. In any case, the Temple Mount, as it looks today, you can see in the southeastern corner, white area in the southeastern corner. This is the roof of the so-called Solomon's Stables, and in front of this building, in front of Solomon's Stables, in this area, was a large pit dug. This is a plan of the Temple Mount showing you the limits, the western, southern, eastern, and you see the major buildings upon the Temple Mount presently, and this is the area where from the material comes. The Temple Mount is honeycombed by over 50 subterranean hollows, which were studied by 19th century scholars, and probably there are more hollows which are unknown to us. This is the dig which took place in 1999, and this shows you the bulldozer and the truck. This is the southern wall of Temple Mount, and these are the arches. 3 out of the 13 arches of the subterranean structure of Solomon's Stables. The building of Solomon's Stables was actually an above-ground building in antiquity. Our study of the soil and the components of the soil contributes to the fact that we were able to reconstruct the ancient topography of the southeastern corner of the Temple Mount, which was lower by 12 meters than the present-day topography. In any case, this is the dump, which was in the Kidron Valley, approximately 500 meters east of the Temple Mount. The sifting developed a methodology of wet sifting following a dry sifting in the first stage. These methods of ours ensure the discovery of 100% of even the smallest artifacts which are found in an archaeological excavation. No wonder that this method was also adopted by many expeditions, and you heard in the previous lecture one of the excavations which adopted this methodology of ours that we introduced first in 2004. This is the wet sifting, and it has also an added value, which is an educational value. You can see the large numbers of people. These are some of the finds of the late Bronze Age. You can see some Egyptian scarabs and the impression of an Egyptian scarab on a jar handle of the late Bronze Age. This is a pendant made of faience bearing the name of Thutmose III, king of Egypt, in the 15th century BC. Probably this was made a century later, and these are some pieces of Mycenaean pottery of the 14th century BC. A conical seal with 2 animals. The 2 animals, most probably a predator and its prey, dates between the 11th and 9th centuries BC. So this is the vast majority of the finds that we have in the sifting goes back to the period from the 10th century BC and on, something that would fit well with the historical information that we have in the biblical account. So this is most probably somewhere around plus minus 10th century BC. We have also abundance of pottery dating back to the 10th century BC with the typical hand burnish or the so-called wild burnish. We have also a variety of approximately 150 figurine fragments. The fragments of animal figurines, which you see at the bottom, they are most of them quadrupeds, most of them equids, but we have also a small figurine of the head of a lioness. Lately, there were several examples of Iron Age lion figurines discovered also elsewhere in Jerusalem and outside it. Altogether, the finds of the Iron Age, First Temple period, they form approximately somewhere between 5 and 10% of the total number of the finds. The seals, seal impressions, they are a very significant portion of the finds. You have here a seal with a doe. The grazing doe is quite frequently appearing upon seal impressions and seals of First Temple period. This other side of the seal here, which is made of blackish stone, has the separation line between the two names, the name of the owner and his patronymic, while in this case the name was erased in order to reuse it once again. We have here a bulla, 1 out of 32 bullae. Altogether we have some 5 examples of seals and 32 bullae. This bulla is a fiscal bulla. It has the name of the city of Gibeon on top, and at the bottom it has the particle lamelech, LK, or belonging to the king. These bullae probably sealed shipments of taxes in kind, which were sent from the cities like Gibeon to the king's treasury in Jerusalem. We have altogether some 55 seal impressions of this kind, and none of them appeared in controlled excavations. This was the first time that it appeared in controlled excavations. Later on we had some other examples with the name of the city of Bethlehem coming from Professor Reich's excavations in the city of David and others. This is yet another bulla which has a very important impact on the study of the temple's treasury. This bulla has the name upon it of Hitzilyahu, son of Immer, Aleph Mem Resh. On the back side, and you have here the line that it was broken along. That is the line of the string that tied the sachet, which included probably the silver which was in it, a hoard of silver. And on the back side we have the imprint of a coarse fabric. The coarse fabric was found on a large number of bullae, which were discovered in Eilat Mazar's excavation south of the Temple Mount. She probably excavated there the king's treasury, while we have here an object which comes most probably from the treasury of the temple. The man whose name appears here is Hitzilyahu, son of Immer, while most probably his brother is mentioned in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 20, as the chief administrator of the temple. That was Pashhur, son of Immer. He is known to be a member of a priestly family, which is mentioned in the second book of Chronicles as the 16th course out of the 24 priestly courses that divided amongst them the service in the temple. This is a small group of broken scale weights made of hard limestone of Jerusalem for measuring 8th century silver. This is one of the steps towards coinage in antiquity. We have here a Subterranean arrowhead, which could be well dated exactly to the time of the destruction of Jerusalem by Nebuchadnezzar II. This type of arrowheads was introduced for the first time in the battles of the Babylonian army, causing the fall of the first temple and Jerusalem. These are 2 out of 5 Yehud coins, which have upon them a barn owl, and on the right-hand side we have the 3 characters Yud, Hey, Dalet. Those are tiny silver coins which were minted in the 4th century BC, and they are the earliest coins minted in Jerusalem, or minted with Hebrew characters, full stop. The number of coins that we have exceeds the number of 7,000 already, and we have a very important body of data, and this body of data is now fully processed, and we are ready for the publication of this. Here we have a seal impression of the island of Rhodes on a handle. You may say, well, there are handles of this kind in abundance in Jerusalem. There were several dozens of them discovered in the excavations of the city of David, but this has a date along the emblem of Rhodes, the rose. We have the inscription around it, which mentions the name of an eponymous who gives us the date or the vintage of the wine that was stored in this Rhodian jar. The year is 165 BC, the year that the temple was defiled by Antiochus IV, king of the Seleucid dynasty. We have the king himself, Antiochus IV, who defiled the temple. We have his face on coins minted at Acre in about a dozen or more examples. We have also the coins of those who followed him and those who replaced him, the Hasmonean rulers, starting with his coins here, Antiochus IV, Epiphanes, and we have here Hasmonean and later Herodian dynasty coins. This bulla is actually a sealing and not exactly a bulla. It was pinched on the back side of it, and it was not secured to a document like bullae. It is a lump of clay which was sealed and then served by the temple authorities to pay something or to indicate that something was paid in order to get a sacrificial animal or in order to get some liquids for libation. In any case, we have a Rhodian jar of the type which is typical to the 1st century of the Common Era, and around it the Greek characters saying dolu, meaning belonging or of the servant, of the servant. We have here some slingshots made of lead, which are typical to the 2nd century BC, stressing the fact that the Temple Mount was a front in the battles of the Hasmonean kings with the Seleucids. We have here something very rare. Altogether we have mainly small finds, but here and there we have some remnants of architectural members. This is a Doric capital which can be reconstructed to top a pillar which was approximately 7 meters in height. The Doric capital from the angle of the Echinus is of the 2nd century BC. We came upon a photograph taken in the 1990s upon the Temple Mount which shows yet another one. Probably these Doric capitals They decorated the porch of Solomon, which is mentioned twice in the New Testament and mentioned once in the writings of Flavius Josephus. So we have here a contribution to the architecture of the pre-Herodian Temple Mount as well. We have, out of more than 30,000 flooring tiles, we have about 150 which are opus sectile types of the 1st century BC, the time of Emperor Augustus and the time of Herod the Great. We were able to reconstruct the floor patterns that these floor tiles made up, and this is the only time that we can say something about the looks of the Temple Mount at the time of its glory, in the time of Herod the Great. The Temple Mount was visited by Jesus, and we have approximately 20 mentionings of the Temple Mount in the New Testament. The floors of the opus sectile could have been the floors upon which the coins were rolling when Jesus turned upside down the tables of the money changers. Nevertheless, we have the study of the opus sectile pieces, which is contributing very important information. For example, we found that all of them fit the fractions of the Roman foot of 29.6 centimeters. More than that, all of them are imported. They are imported from Asia Minor, from Italy, from Greece, from Tunisia, and various other areas. The most common found pieces are made of the bituminous, blackish bituminous limestone, which is local, coming from the area of the northwestern side of the Dead Sea. So these were less looted and therefore preserved. We have here some larger pieces of flooring tiles which we reconstructed with a computer, with the help of the computer, and we found out that they would fit what the Talmud writes about the reminiscences of the sages concerning the floors of the Temple Mount, which were kegalei hayam, like the waves of the sea. We have some sculptured pieces. They were recently dealt with by Orit Barkay, but they were beautifully sculptured. This piece was exfoliated as a result of the conflagration upon the Temple Mount in the year 70 from a wall. It could come even from the temple proper. It has upon it here and here, it has remnants of the black soot, which is part of the conflagration. We have also part of the weaponry of the army of Titus, which put an end to the Second Temple of Jerusalem. This piece here is an arrowhead of a catapult, which was used only once in the history of Jerusalem, used by the armies of Titus. We are working very hard on processing the material. Since 2011, we have a lab in town in which we have about 20 people working, each of them in his own expertise. We are going to be out, hopefully soon, with the first volume on the coins and on some of the pottery finds. So we hope that our efforts will be appreciated. Thank you very much.